Hi, Samantha Tonge, Labrakeeta Marketing here again, speaking with yet another expert. We've got Andy Adamson here today, and what we're going to be speaking about generally is the latest technology and within, well, websites, I guess, and related stuff. So, Andy, over to you. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, I can. Thank you, first of all, for having me. I guess we've kind of changed what we do over the last 4 years or so. So we've niched into the legal sector. We create digital products that could be websites, software applications, or something that's a big focus for us at the moment, and that's machine learning chatbots. So it's kind of anything that can be delivered through a web browser, I would say. And our job is quite challenging because everything we need to do needs to be intuitive. And as designers and engineers, I think we need to give people the tools to complete a given task and then get out of the way. That's kind of what we do in a nutshell.
So you create efficiencies for your clients, ultimately.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
Okay, so I guess things are changing constantly in that field, and you know what's available, what we can do. So as marketers, what are some things that we need to think about that's now valuable? You mentioned chatbots. That might be a good place to start.
Yeah.
That we need to start thinking about integrating with our technologies.
Yeah. Well, do you know, I think we work in slightly different spaces, but we're doing this sort of similar things. You know, we're helping companies get where they want to be. And I guess our bit starts when you finish, or you know, you lead the way in what we're doing. And in our sector alone, I guess, Samantha, you know, we've got quite a lot of technology that's already around us. You know, if you think about the project management tools that we've just got used to, you know, things like Asana, Trello, Monday, Teamwork, Productive, all of these great applications that help us do what we need to do. And then if you look at the accounting bit, you know, you've got Free Agent, Xero, QuickBooks and everything. And then obviously we've got Zoom, Teams, and then a fantastic tool called Slack, which, yeah, they do help us do what they do. And that's what technology is all about. You know, I often hear people talk about digital transformation, and I guess in that respect, there's two I think are really going to transform what we do. One of them's happening already, and that's artificial intelligence, and the second one is blockchain.
Yeah.
And blockchain is something that I think is alien to most people. It's pretty scary, but that's emerging as something really quite interesting. You know, if I was just looking at some stats recently, in 2019 alone, there's over 1,000 tech startups in blockchain.
Oh, wow.
And it's, yeah, exactly. And that's going to lead to something. There's a lot happening around the world. And I think that number is going to grow. But I guess, you know, understanding what blockchain is the hard bit. I'll maybe just describe briefly.
Yeah, I have the vaguest idea, but it'd be great if you could.
Because it's something we're just looking at the moment, but it is slightly alien to it. It's kind of a method. A blockchain is a system of recording information in a way that it makes it difficult to change or hack or cheat the system, and that's what's appealing to people, I think. And these blockchains are stored across a network of computers. So there's no one person who actually owns the system as such, but it's accessible to everybody. And you know, you might hear it referred to as a distributed network. But yeah, the blockchain's first big killer app really is the Bitcoin, and everybody's heard of Bitcoin. You know, that's really that's become quite desirable because it can't be copied, and it's a good way of stopping fraud. So these are you know, person-to-person transactions with no banks involved. which I think people like. You know, what I see happening in the future, I think, you know, I think we're going to start seeing house sales in the blockchain, and that will be, you know, a blockchain element would be the deeds to that house. It could be sale of conditions, and that will be handled between the purchaser and the seller. There'll be nobody else involved, and it'll be quicker.
That's
So
an interesting concept.
yeah, it's interesting. There's going to be a lot happening in that space, I think, over the, you know, coming years. In fact, the Law Society has just produced its second edition of its regulatory compliance on blockchain. So that's a good indication of what the general feeling is. You know, so I think it's, for us, it's kind of, we're just trying to work out how it can fit in with us using artificial intelligence and as you said, chatbots, which is, that is really something that's pretty powerful. I honestly think it's going to change all our jobs, and you know, across the board. It's not going to take our jobs away, which I think is the fear for most people, but it's just going to help us do what we do. And you know, certainly in, you know, when you look at sort of your field in marketing, and particularly that online space where there's lots of analytics and data to look at.
Yeah,
that's where artificial intelligence will come in. And
that'll make my life a lot easier.
Yeah, exactly. And the reporting of all that
stuff, it tells me, oh, you need to do more of this.
yeah. It's yeah, I think mobile phones and you know, they had quite a big impact on how we consume information and how we entertain ourselves, how we buy products. But this is much bigger than that. This is a significant shift in my view. You know, it's it can reason, it can learn, and it can recognize patterns and things. So you know, already it's in software applications and robots, but it's really about decision making and problem solving. For anyone that's willing to work with it, there's a lot of opportunities, I think. It's a real disruptive technology. And it's, weirdly, it's been around for quite some time. You know, Google first released their AI engine, thing called RankBrain in 2015, which was helping us actually, helping them rank websites. So it was looking for content based on the search terms, and it was bumping them up above others that had more of those search terms. You know all of this stuff. Yeah. But that was 2015. And so they've learned a lot in that time. Their products, their AI products are very good. You can actually test it yourself. You know, if you pick up your phone and say, you know, do a search, say a voice search, who is Barack Obama? It'll come back and tell you. And then if you ask it another question, say, does he have a dog? And it'll come back and tell you, yes, he's got a dog called Sunny. But I didn't say, does Barack Obama have a dog? So the machine learning elements of that. Yeah. Now that actually for a machine is really clever. And that's the bit that really excites us. You know, that's what, you know, I remember, gosh, years ago, we used to work with the Lowry in Salford, and it's a really big theatre and art space. And I remember really pleased when we when the tender, I just sort of said, can I sit in box office and just listen to what people are asking? And so I tried to learn about the organisation, and I was there for an hour or so, and people were getting asked the same questions over and over, but the way they were being answered was with great knowledge. And they were saying, well, this show's about this, and, you know, and you can buy tickets for it, and it's got a little bit of humour, it's quite, you know, and I thought, oh God, we can never do that on a website. And I got kind of depressed. But with chatbots, I think you can now. I think we're getting to a stage where a chatbot can respond to questions with the right answers, so long as you tell it what those answers are.
Yeah. So
that's the bit. Yeah. I mean, they're clever, but they're really stupid. You know, we released the chatbot, when was that, 2 years ago, maybe? And it was for a kids charity, mental health charity. in Manchester, and it was to try and help kids who were in a bit of a crisis. And they could go to the chat bot and they could just sort of say, I'm feeling depressed, I feel tired, I feel low. And it would know what to say back. And it knew what to say back because we got the kids themselves who had come through the process to program it to say, right, if someone says this, what should you tell it? So it wasn't diagnosing, and it was just giving them information on, this is what you can do if you can't sleep. These are some of the things that might help you. Now, that is a great way of just making a small impact on people's lives. But you take that to customer service, if it's done correctly, really good.
Yeah.
That's the bit that excites me.
So from my perspective, it could potentially, qualify leads before it gets to you. Exactly.
It's put them straight in your CRM system and make an appointment in your Outlook calendar or whichever system. Yeah. It can integrate with Facebook and all your social channels. It's powerful stuff. But the problem with these things is that, we did a prototype for an online will application, and there's about 4,500 questions it can answer, but it's not enough.
Okay.
We're just in the final testing stages of an employment contract chatbot that can ask you questions that will generate a legally binding employment contract.
Ooh.
But it's just starting out, and it's really stupid. It's terrible. So we've been working with a lawyer, and it just needs more and more questions that it can answer, and the home working thing, so you update it with home working, data protection, all these sort of things, it's really powerful.
Yeah, it sounds really exciting from my point of view. I've got ideas of how I could use it with clients and myself.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, well, I think the good thing is that they can do multiple conversations at one time. There's no limit, effectively. 24 hours a day. So, the sector we're in the legal sector, is that people can, if they wanted to, they can get employment contracts or whatever contract it might be, whenever they want, when it suits them. If you're a business owner or, or if you're doing shift work, whatever it might be, you've got access to legal services when you need them. That's the grand plan.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant. That sounds brilliant. And as you mentioned it's browser-based stuff that you do.
Yeah.
That brings me on to another thing, because the lines are very much being blurred between applications and websites now, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's what we started calling digital products now, because a website on its own, I would say there's probably not. Well, I suppose it's a credentials thing, but when you start stitching in a CRM system, your appointments calendar, or integrating any other back office databases, so people can
marketing automation.
Marketing automation. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which I keep hearing people, old school people complaining about, but actually it just makes sense.
Absolutely.
The only challenge that automation brings is the shouting, I kind of worry a little bit about social platforms becoming flooded with voices, and standing out with amongst that lot is becoming a real challenge.
Yes.
Maybe the metaverse will change that.
Not convinced.
Yeah, don't know either.
Yeah, that's very true. And getting your voice heard, and I find that's increasingly difficult on Facebook from a personal point of view. Because I've got two accounts. I've got my professional Facebook account and my personal account. I find myself looking at it less and less because I just keep seeing the same posts over and over, and I'm getting bored. And I think that might be. I think this recent news about daily users dropping might be because they actually need to improve their automation.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the algorithms that are being used as well, another AI application, is that they're still learning, I think, in many respects. You know, when you start looking at, particularly I notice on Instagram, you know, you start looking at certain types of posts, it will give you more of those. And I find that quite frustrating, actually, because, and I don't think I'm much different. I got quite an eclectic interest in things, you know.
Yeah.
You know, think about architecture, design, fashion, furniture, interior, you know, all of these facets. I don't think I'm that different, but, you know,
no.
I get flooded when I start looking at certain things. I get flooded with other stuff. No. So that's a big turn up. But hopefully they'll be learning from that if they're listening to people. And sure, as you say, if people are dropping off, then
which is hitting their advertising revenue big time. So
yeah.
So yeah, you'd think they would improve. Yeah, I think that's generally, it's quite hard to cut across the noise in marketing generally. But yeah, you're right, in social media space it's becoming more difficult, I think.
Yeah.
Especially with, if you're I think a lot of time people think about social media marketing, they think about the organic posts, which is just the ones that you put out there for your connections to see. But it's the paid for that gets the most views for obvious reasons. So yeah, if that is in your budget, just as a side, since we're talking about it, it's probably worth considering. Yeah. Yeah. So is that? Do you think there are other technologies that we all ought to think about because it will make our lives easier today, that's you know, available, that we ought to look at?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, yeah, it's really hard to answer that question in a sense, because, you know, what we've got around is, you know, some of the technology I've talked about, so project management tools or accounting tools or the communications tools, they're kind of supporting what we do. Yeah. And what we really need is a disruptor. And, you know, blockchain is going to be a disruptor. Artificial intelligence, in my view, is a disruptor. But it's how you use those, I think, is the secret. And, you know, an easy one for us to pick on was chatbot, because they're relatively straightforward to do. Right. Yeah, that's such a good question there, actually. I'm not sure I can give you an answer and say you should be using this technology now. But what I would do is definitely keep an eye on artificial intelligence and how that could impact on what you're doing. Because, you know, we've got support technology and we've got disrupting technology. And AI is disrupting. It can really help us. And don't worry, it's not going to take any people's jobs away. It's going to help people use their brain in a much more creative way, which is what we're good at, you know. Data crunching. Yeah. You know, there's a small section of society who have got that kind of brain. And when we, you know, it can be done by machines. And I would say that's it, you know. So for you, I guess would be analytics and data analysis. You know, if you want to say, right, I need to understand A, B, and K, these elements of the full A to Z, those are my top picks. How can artificial intelligence help with that? You know, right now, I can't think of an AI product that's out there that's, you know, that's working in your sector, sorry, that's not very expensive. You know, at the moment, artificial intelligence is quite expensive to implement. Yeah. But because of the machine learning component, the sooner you implement it, the better it's going to be.
It'll save you money in the long run.
Oh God, yeah. And it also put you ahead of your competitors. You know,
Yes.
I can see a time where there are firms who specialize, probably just because they've had an investment in the first place, specialize in AI technology and automation. And they will be flooded with other companies like them saying, can you just automate this process and give us the data back? You know, I can see that, you know, sort of say a marketing data analytics using a marketing company who focuses on analyzing this amazing amount of data we've got. I guess you're familiar with, obviously be familiar with Google Analytics. You know, they've got Data Studio to try and make it easier. I'm not sure they've actually achieved that. So, you know, what we want to do is for this application to say to us report back to us every week in easy terms that everyone can understand.
Yeah.
You know, you've achieved this because of this, this, and this.
Yeah.
And, you know, some of the analytics we're getting at the moment, they're all a bit vague to me. You know, I don't know how understandable they are to companies that we work with. You know, we've got to sit in between and interpret all that for them in a way that they can understand. And it's not being disrespectful to the end client. It's just, it's what we do, you know. It's kind of
completely, yeah.
So to answer your question,
like skills, it's not that easy.
Yeah. So I can't give you a definitive answer right now. So you should be using this technology, but I'll tell you what I would do. I would start investigating how artificial intelligence can help you in your business.
That's good advice, yeah.
You know, that's going to be massive. And then once you've got used to that, blockchain will come along and change everything again.
Yeah, sounds really interesting. And what I mean, you're talking about there are other things. I guess you kind of covered that in a way. I was going to ask about the future. What do you see that there's going to be going on in 5-10 years time? So I guess a lot of that's going to involve artificial intelligence and blockchain. Is that the answer really, or is there anything else that you think is coming along that we need to be aware of?
Not that I've spotted. I'm kind of I don't think we can take anything else at the moment. Certainly my brain can't, but definitely blockchain will be an interesting one. You know, there's so many tech startups and they're all working away on different systems and methods and better ways of doing things. And I think it's going to be popular because it's a peer-to-peer thing and it cuts out layers of organizations who are seen to be taking money from that transaction where it's not really needed.
Sounds like it's an added layer of security as well, because
exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Huge area, and it sounds like that maybe blockchain might be some of the answer anyway.
Yeah, I think so. And security, you know, I think we've all become very aware of hacking. That's really grown. You know, I think when we were working 10 years ago, it was pretty rare we would see something. Now it's commonplace, and we're expecting it. You know, we just anticipate it. You know, we've got our own dedicated servers, and the company that actually hosts them for us have got a dedicated security team.
Yeah.
And as part of their organization, they have lecture theatres, so they get graduates who are coming out who know all the latest stuff, but then start learning what actually is happening, and there's more layers of security that need to go on things. It's a real worry, actually.
It's shocking how some very large companies have been caught out when they, you know, I mean, even I'm set up so that I'll be, you know, if I get a ransomware attack, I'll be back up and running within 24 hours because.
Oh, really? Good for you.
Yeah, you know, it's.
Nice.
It's all backed up, not just on my system, not just on, you know, Office 365. It's on like another separate system, so that, you know, the ransomware, you know, not everything's going to get caught out in it. You just think, why are these huge companies not investing it when it stops them doing business? Like TNT was ground to a halt for a long time, and they're having to, you know, individuals were having to use their mobile phone contacts to try and figure out where, you know, where lorries were and stuff. And you just think it's such new. So it's interesting that that, you know, that might be another part of the solution.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is amazing at how many high-profile organisations just haven't really done what they should do. And I think, you know, if you think about it, you've got network engineers who will buy a certain amount of protective kit, firewalls and what have you. And these products, you know, these boxes are, you know, they get taken out of the box and they get plugged into the network. And the standard protocols to set these things up, and people just work with those standard protocols. So if you're a hacker who studied this stuff along the guy who's actually fitting it, goes, right, I know that 85% of people just use this out-of-the-box settings when they're doing these things. And then there's a way in there, and then once they're in, they can wreak havoc. And, you know, these guys, I don't know, it's interesting. I've worked with software engineers for, God, quite a long time. And they're an interesting group of people. They're very ethical people. It's pretty rare that you get someone who goes a bit rogue, but on the whole, you know, you get what we call ethical hackers who will try and break into a place. And these people are paid a lot of money to do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, people are, you know, will all study computing and computer science and engineering all at the same place, same universities. They know it all. And if you've, and one of the, I mean, open source content management systems and what have you, open source platforms became very popular because effectively we're free. But the problem with open source is that all the source code's out there, so anyone can see it, and it's easy to break into.
Right.
And then, okay, so someone closes the door, but you can still get that closed door and open it again, you know,
right.
if you know what I mean. So it's going to be a constant battle. Yeah, I think security is a real concern. And, you know, often when people commission software, they get what they call a minimum viable product, MVP. And that actually is often that stays there because of the cost. You know, writing software is very, very expensive. Yep. Engineers are very expensive because there's not enough of them around.
Yep.
Yeah, so adding all that layer of security in there is a lot of, you know, an extra cost. Oh, it's seen as an extra cost, but it's pretty vital. But I think, you know, things are changing now. I started to see the legislative bodies putting standards down, you know, cyber essentials and all these sort of standards that, and ISO standards, which are very good things to do, I think. I think once you start using those methods, it makes it a bit safer. But it also, I think more importantly, I think it draws to attention what you're doing with data and what you're doing with information. You know, we've had clients in the past who've just gathered loads of data, you know, when, you know, just filling out a form, buying a product, you know, asking them all sorts of questions that they're never actually going to use that data. I remember working with a theatre down south, and they had this sort of internal discussion saying, we've got all these massive databases of people, but we're not using that data. So they actually got rid of it. They just use their name and an email address, because that's how they communicate. They don't send them anything to the post anymore, unless they specifically ask for them. So yeah, I think we're starting to think a little bit more about a broader thing. You know, there's always this thing that it's a safe place to be, but it never was.
Yeah.
You know, the internet's this great thing that always works. Well, yeah, it does, but it does break. and there are breaches, and it's run by human beings for most part. So yeah,
and even when it's not, it's things that were made by human beings. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, what goes in comes out.
Yeah. So it sounds like generally the overall message is we should be keeping an eye on what's out there, what's available, what's coming up, and think about getting ahead of the competition.
Yeah.
And generally, which I think is a good thing anyway, but yeah, in terms of technology as well, we need to be thinking long term, not short term.
Yeah, definitely. And artificial intelligence for me is the way to go, and see how you can use that in your business and in what you do. And just to cover that again, what it does, it allows you to use your brain in the way that it's best part of the creative bit. As when you're working for lots of different companies and clients, you get a lot of knowledge and experience, and you know when to break the rules and when not to break the rules. You kind of feel your way through all of that. You make mistakes on the journey and you learn, and that's great. And that's what technology should be doing. It should allow you time to really think strategically about what your client wants and how to get them there.
Yeah,
that's the good stuff,
yeah,
and all that other
I think we're all
tedious
short on time, so anything that can help us get on with the day job.
Yeah, and it's the speed.
Yeah.
If you think about an AI application, it can read tens of thousands of documents in minutes.
Yeah,
and it can know every single word. It can spot patterns in those texts that you tell it to look for.
yeah, it sounds brilliant. So yeah, thank you very much for all that. It's a lot of really useful information, things that we need to well, actually, to be fair, lots of industries, but marketers need to start thinking about how to integrate some of this stuff. So that's brilliant. So thank you very much. And before I go, I always like to ask, do you have anything to plug at the moment?
Do I have anything to plug? I think I've already talked about the work we're doing with chatbots. That's the stuff that's really
If you need a chatbot, especially if you're in the legal sphere, speak to Andy.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, or if you've got loads of contracts that you need automating, then yeah, that's that's what we've been doing. So yeah, that's my plug. Thank you.
Brilliant. This will be going up on, as well as YouTube, this will be going up on my website, and I will make sure Andy's links are there, so check them out. But yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, goodbye everybody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.